What is the conflict between the United Arab Emirates and Somalia? Somalia has been struggling to gain support from the international community in recent weeks following Israel's recognition of the self-ruled Somaliland. Despite the Somali government's diplomatic efforts, which have received support from several African and Middle Eastern countries, its relations with one country have become more strained than ever. The United Arab Emirates, UAE, a longtime ally of Somalia and the Mogadishu administration, has found itself in a dilemma. The oil-rich Gulf state is known to play a major role in Somalia's security, economy, and politics. Somalia, which has a 3,000-kilometer coastline in the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean, is said to be a source of instability in Africa and the Middle East due to piracy and illegal arms trafficking at sea. The Emirates has been carrying out development projects in the ports of Bosaso, Kismayo, and Berbera in accordance with agreements with the central government and regional governments of Somalia. But last Monday, the federal government of Somalia announced that it had completely canceled the port development and security agreement it had signed with the UAE. Somalia did this because the UAE violated its sovereignty. We had good relations with the UAE, but unfortunately, they could not see us as a free and sovereign country. We have reached this decision after carefully considering the situation, Somali President Sheikh Mohammed said in a televised speech. The UAE has not yet commented on Somalia's decision. Omar Mahmoud, a senior researcher at the International Crisis Group, told the BBC that Israel's recognition of Somaliland was the basis for this decision. Somalia sees this recognition as an erosion of its territorial integrity. It also believes that the UAE played a major role behind it, says Mahmoud. Last December, Israel became the first country in the world to recognize Somaliland. The news sparked jubilation in Somaliland's capital, Hagerstown. This is a major victory for Somaliland, which has been independent from Somalia for over 30 years, is governed by its own government, has its own passport and currency. Somaliland has instead announced that it will become part of the Abraham Accords, which were implemented in 2020. The UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco are members of the agreement and have full diplomatic relations with Israel. This is a relief for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been under pressure over the Gaza war. The region has become divided by various external forces. The UAE and Israel occupy it on one side, and Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and others on the other, says Mahmoud. According to a report published by the Middle East media outlet last Monday, the UAE has withdrawn a large number of its troops and heavy weapons from Bosaso Airport due to the diplomatic rift between the two countries. Mahmoud says Somalia's relations with the Emirates have been deteriorating since Ethiopia, a close ally of the UAE, and Somaliland signed a memorandum of understanding. Somalia's disagreement with the UAE began when Addis Ababa signed a memorandum of understanding with Somaliland. Somalia strongly rejected this agreement, but the UAE seems to have supported it. Ethiopia made promises but did not implement them. Israel did. The analyst said that the UAE's use of Somalia to expel Yemeni separatist leader Ayatollah Ali al-Zubaydi has deepened the rift between the two countries. The use of Somali airspace and airports to deport a wanted person is not something that Somalia accepts, Somalia's State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ali Omar, told Al Jazeera. Last week, Saudi Arabia made similar accusations, accusing UAE officials of manipulating the Yemeni militant group's leader, al-Zubaydi, who traveled by ship to Berbera and then via Mogadishu to Abu Dhabi. But the UAE denies supporting rebel groups in Yemen. This is not the first time that diplomatic relations between Somalia and the UAE have been in jeopardy. In 2018, then Somali President Mohamed Farmajo accused the UAE of interfering in Mogadishu's internal politics. Sheikh Mahmoud, who was a former opposition figure, supported the UAE's involvement in Somalia. Some accused the Somali president of exploiting the differences between the UAE and Saudi Arabia for his own personal gain over the war in Yemen. But Mahmoud argues that the Somali federal government lacks the capacity to implement the decision. The reason for this is that the central government lacks the capacity to exercise its authority in Somaliland. The central government also has no authority over the semi-autonomous regions of Puntland and Jubaland. The central government of Somalia has no control over these regions. It is even in a power struggle with the region's governors, says Mahmoud. Dubai-based logistics company DP World, which operates in the port of Berbera, does not appear to be swayed by the Somali government's decision. DP World is focused on bringing streamlined trade and economic benefits to Somaliland and the entire Horn of Africa. It is good that questions regarding political decisions, government discussions, and diplomatic relations are addressed to the relevant parties, he said in a statement sent to Reuters news agency. Somaliland said all agreements it has entered into with the UAE remain legal and enforceable. Jubaland called the federal government's decision meaningless, while Puntland condemned it as inconsistent with the principles of constitutional governance. But according to Mahmoud, Somalia can still use its influence to put pressure on the UAE and its allies. Mogadishu controls the airspace. It can use this and other diplomatic pressure to pressure the UAE and regional states. It can also coordinate with its allies, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. They say, Mahmoud does not expect the diplomatic rift between the UAE and Somalia to improve anytime soon. It would take a major step to defuse diplomatic tensions, they say.